It is Back to Work Monday. Thank you for joining us. And again, a warm welcome to the program. By now, if you do not already know, here it is again. Kofi Annan, a former United Nations Secretary General and Nobel Peace Prize winner, is dead. His foundation announced in a tweet on Saturday that the 80-year-old Annan passed away peacefully in a hospital in Switzerland after a short illness. And since that announcement, tributes have been pouring from all around the world to the Ghanaian, one of the world's most celebrated diplomats. Now, if we are to take some of those tributes from notable leaders, we probably would not end today's show, but we take some, though. Current UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres described his predecessor as a guiding force for good.
And while leaders have also paid tribute to this figure of international diplomacy, French President Emmanuel Macron took to Twitter. France pays tribute to him. We will never forget his calm and resolute gaze, nor the strength of his fighting. For his part, the Russian head of state, Vladimir Putin, said he sincerely admired the wisdom and courage of the diplomat. In the country of Kofi Annan, time has slowed down since the announcement of his death. Ghana has decreed a week of mourning starting Monday. He has contributed considerably to the reputation of our country through his position, his conduct and his behavior in the world, said the Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo. We head to Accra to discuss the impact of Kofi Annan with Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, Director of the Institute for Democratic Change.
Nous allons nous rendre au Ghana pour discuter de l'impact qu'a eu Kofi Annan avec le Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, directeur de l'Institut pour le changement démocratique. Dr. Akwete, bonjour. Alors, Kofi Annan a été
Dr. Akwete, Kofi Annan was commended for his efforts in conflict resolution. So let's go back to the diplomat's heritage, if you don't mind.
It's a great legacy. I would say that in the post-war era, he's the African who led the world, and the world accepted him. He's the African who led the world, and the world accepted him. Our Secretary General and his work in the UN, I think we got to know more about him when he became Secretary General. And, you know, nobody really, with the exception of the Iraq War, where he stood his ground firmly, and as a man of conscience, and he felt the ethical issues needed to be looked at, and the basis for the interventions were not straight, and he courted displeasure on the American rights. I think, by and large, he was successful in moving things forward from that position. And I think what I've also read about all the tributes, they call him a strong leader, one in 1,000, visionary, tactful but firm, and they did not care only about peace and security, but also social development. He put Africa at the center of the global international development cooperation and got Millennium Development Goals, got aid effectiveness, and he changed the whole agenda of international cooperation with the weak in society. AIDS issues were there, climate change, agriculture. So the development agenda, he broadened it out because he's an African and he knew the problems of the continent and other places in the developing world, and he championed them effectively.
And how would you describe his work in democracy and governance, especially after he left the United Nations?
You know, I think he did extraordinarily well. You recall that the third wave of democracy from about 1991 to 2000, most African countries have moved from one-party state to multi-party democracy. And there were new experiences because for a greater part from 1960 to 91, many countries have had a very short trip with multi-party democracy. Many have become one-party states. Military regimes in West Africa, especially in East Africa, you have the one-party states and so on. And here was the AU, having the OAU, defined within the NEPAC context and so on, the Constitutive Act, that multi-party democracy will be the framework within which, you know, Africa develops. Who knows what would have happened if he hadn't been successful in negotiating for Kenya to move out of the violence that threatened its very existence. And, you know, he had a tough time, but he was able to deliver a constitution that, by and large, had stabilized Kenya and saved them from the issues of the last election. These are not perfect products. But I think his leadership at the time it came, over the 9 years he was in office as Secretary General, were also coincided with the time that Africa had met again as a multi-party democracy and searching its roots to strengthen its economic transformation and development. And I think the principles of equality, of inclusiveness, of taking care of the poor to a greater extent, that became a global agenda, pushed many governments in those directions, which they wouldn't otherwise, ruling elites wouldn't otherwise have gone there. So he achieved a lot.
Merci à vous, Dr. Akwete,
Thank you for your reaction on our antenna, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, Director of the Institute for Democratic Change in Accra, Ghana.
Au Ghana, le Ghana qui est en deuil donc depuis le décès de Kofi Annan.